As early voting for Georgia's 14th congressional district continues and preparations are made for the May primary, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger is visiting Paulding County today. He's also running for governor in the midterms. That's where we find Atlanta News First Sarah Hammond. She joins us live with more on this very busy election season, Sarah.
Yeah, it is a very, very busy election season, particularly for Paulding County and the areas surrounding Paulding County as early voting continues to fill Georgia's 14th congressional district seat left vacant by Marjorie Taylor Greene. It is a crowded race, more than a dozen candidates, a crowded field of Republicans and a handful of Democrats. And with so many candidates, there will likely be a runoff in April. Then immediately after that, counties across Georgia will dive right into the May primary election, which includes the race for governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, and attorney general. And we spoke to Secretary Raffensperger ahead of his visit to meet with Paulding County's elections director to make sure they have what they need.
This is just a great opportunity to give them, a pat in the back. And obviously, yes, we have all these special elections going on, and then we get into the, primary, and then we'll have the primary runoff, and then obviously the fall. So this is a busy time of the year for people in that election space, but they're true professionals.
And Raffensperger will be on the ballot running for Georgia's next governor alongside 7 other Republicans, including Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, Rick Jackson, and Attorney General Chris Carr. 7 Democrats also vying for the state's top job. We have that full list of who is running on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com. Live here in Paulding County, Sarah Hammond for Atlanta News First.
All right, Sarah, thanks for that report there.